Hey folks, good evening. I'm Aditya from Chennai. I did my undergraduation in computer science and engineering from Pondicherry Engineering College, following which I worked with TCS Digital as a front-end developer for 2 years. I'm now a PGP1 student at IIM Bangalore, and I'll be interning with Atlassian as a product manager coming summer. Looking forward to interacting with you all. Cheers. So, jumping right into the session, we'll start off with talking about the WAT process, which is pretty unique because only two of the major colleges have a WAT once things have moved online. So, last year we had the first round of WAT online for the first time by IIM Bangalore, and it was held on an online proctored website wherein we had to type in our answers to questions given. We were given about 30 minutes and we had to write a solution ranging to about 250 words. It was a hard stop, so make sure that you stick to the word limit that's given to you and answer appropriately. Coming to the topics are often very wide, so do not restrict yourself or restrict your thought process to a specific line. And the topic could range from politics to education to anything in between. And it sometimes revolves around current affairs too. So make sure that your GK is well brushed up and you can uh, answer any question taken there. Also, make sure you structure your thoughts right in the beginning because the portal usually does not allow you to cut, copy, and paste. So do not think that you can rejig your passage after you've written it. Make sure you have a clear structure before you start writing and take it forward from there. A lot of times it so happens that we might not know exactly what the question is asking about, or we might be completely blank. So that's very common. It happens to all of us in one topic or the other. So make sure that you take a pastel approach to understand what is the problem. So think of it from a political, economical, social, technological, legal aspects, and then it'll give you some light on how you can move forward. So that's basically my take on the VAT. I'd love to hear what others have to say.
Yeah, so what I basically used to do is, as Aditya rightly pointed out, pestle analysis, which is political, economical, sociological, technology, legal, and environmental. So what the approach that I followed is, because the number of words is limited, I used to stick to 5 paragraph approach, wherein first paragraph is introduction, last paragraph is conclusion. And what I used to do is I used to take some stand. So don't be neutral, take some stand and prove your stance by using any of these three approaches. Like view any topic from any of the points that are there in pestle analysis. So the topic, your stance can be proved by any of the three approaches, say political, legal, and technological aspect of that topic. So per paragraph can be related to one particular aspect. So this was the approach that I used to follow. If anybody has any other approach, they can also go on.
Yeah, I just want to mention one more thing. Apart from the approaches, also, time becomes a very important factor. Essentially, when you start writing a VAT, and once you start practicing, you understand that you don't have as much time as you think. So, you have to practice your VAT in such a way, especially for freshers who are not, conducive to typing. It's better to sort of take a Word document and start typing out and start timing right at the beginning of your preparation, because a lot of time it so happens that you write something and then it doesn't necessarily match with the chain of thought that you have in the next paragraph. So you have to rejig your lines, or you have to edit. So it's important to sort of, try to strike a balance and try to time yourself. So that is something that will come only through practice. So I just want to ensure that you don't discount the practice aspect of that at any point.
Yeah, just a small thing I'd like to add here is the fact that, 250 word limit is a very tricky thing, right? So something on a soft skill point of view, what you can try doing is whenever you come across any current affair topic or something, try to summarize it in a very concise manner, right? Because that makes sure that your thought process is already aligned in a way that you can write quickly as well as in a way that is convincing, because you don't want to stray around everything and not touch anything very well, or just touch one topic and not see anything at all. So those two things are something that you don't want to do. You want to be somewhere in the middle. So that is something that you can try building a habit around by reading something and try to summarize it with a friend or your family in a short way, so that on the day when the actual VAT is happening, you know what your exact way of writing is and you can quickly write those 250 words making complete sense.
Right. So before we move on to the SOP and the interview process, we have a question on what are our thoughts on how a fresher can crack the interview at IIMB as the interview emphasizes on work X. And I think Chinmay would be the perfect person to answer this question. Go ahead, Chinmay.
Yeah. So to be very honest, the interview process is something that is very broad, and there is no one way you can know what they're going to ask, right? So the best you can do is do your homework very well. So the interview revolves around academics, around questions related to your own ambitions and your own thought processes. There could be questions around GK, on general knowledge, and all. So for a fresher, specific questions that can come across could be something like, why an MBA now? Since MBA is typically a course meant for people with work ex, where they can apply contextual knowledge that they have on. So these type of questions have to first be tackled within yourself, right? So there's an important introspection that goes across with everyone, and importantly for a fresher, wherein you need to see the life journey that you've been through and try to make sense of it and understand how you are perfect fit for an MBA and how an MBA is a perfect fit for you. It has to go both ways. So you need to go around anything, that there's nothing specific. It can be your internships, your extracurriculars, you as a person, or anything. There'll be something that clicks. And that something is the thing that you pick up and make a story around and make sure that it goes into a way that MBA makes sense in your life. So it has to be something which is a combination of honesty as well as your smartness that merges into an answer. And apart from that, academics is something that a fresher is typically asked. So if you are an engineer or even a non-engineer for that matter, you'd want to make sure that your academics is good enough. Now, coming into an MBA, you won't be really doing that part later in your life, but at the same time, you need to show them that you've given proper justice to it. Because if you're an engineer, you've done 4 years of technical things, so you should have given justice to it. So make sure that you read that part properly, as they are more susceptible to ask academic questions to you. So yeah, this is it from my side, specifically for a fresher.
Sure. Let us now move on to the next part in the agenda. So you'll be now talking about SOP. So especially at IIM, the SOP is a very, very important document for you to taste your interview. Mostly around 70 to 80% of your interview will be around SOP. And the recommendation that I would give is do not include the basic profile things in your SOP. So your basic profile things, your 10th, 12th, your academics, your awards are already known to them. So your SOP should be something which is very, very unique to you. And SOP is your very first chance to drive the interview, to make the interviewer understand that these are the things that you want to be asked and you want to be tested upon. Don't only include the awards and the work case or the academic achievements that you have done. Also include some abstract things like the values that you have gained throughout and the things that you have used in different dynamic situations and what is the most important thing in your life. So if these questions are, if these things are there in your SOP, the interview might touch upon it. And if you have a very convincing answer, you have a very good chance to go ahead. Others can read to the point.
Right. So in addition to whatever Bhargavi was talking about, it's also very important to make the SOP as a convincing story about yourself. Putting in raw facts is something that everybody can do, but it's also important to weave a story about it. Humans generally love stories, and opening with a hook is something that you can do, which will make the interviewer very curious about who you are, what you are, and so on. So starting with a story or a very interesting hook about you, something which makes you stand out of the crowd, is something which I think is a very good strategy.
What other things that you can add in SOP is add the diverse personalities that differentiates you from the lot. So what it will do is it will help you state some points about you in the interview. So what I personally did for my SOP is I divided the whole SOP into two parts. First is the quantitative part, wherein you have to show the impact of the work that was done by you, say in work in your work experience, or if you're a fresher, then in college, whatever activities you did in your college. So you can cover the quantitative impact in that part. And second is qualitative impact. So qualitatively, what all things did you do? What all hobbies do you have? How in depth, how interested are you in your hobbies? So try to cover these things. And as Aditya rightly mentioned, try to hook interviewer to your story. Try to make it interesting story so that interviewer will read the whole page. just understand the mindset of interviewer. They are reading many SOPs throughout the day. So make sure that you include the point that will make them remember you, and also they won't get bored while reading that SOP. So make it interesting to read for them.
Yeah, just one more thing on this. Make sure that you show your SOP once you've drafted it to a diverse set of people. Coming from, let's say myself from a CA background, I would mention certain things which would be only specific to the CA people and might not be understood essentially by engineering people or something like that. So it's important for you to, take a perspective from different sets of people. You can even show it. I even show it to my parents to understand whether they are finding anything interesting or not, even after knowing me for my whole life. So you should try to take a different perspective and show it to as many people as you can. That's another point about SOP that is important.
Yeah, just one last thing is give it proper time and justice, right? Because what happens is it is a overwhelming theme in the beginning. You don't really know what to fit in because there's a limit on the number of words you can put in, and also the fact that you have so much to put in that it should not just become a laundry list of achievements or things that you've done. But at the same time, the whole thing where everyone emphasizes on a story is kind of overwhelming in the beginning, and your first draft will not look as if you expected it to be, right? So that is something that you should not be bothered by, and you should keep on taking new versions. As Raja said, talk to a diverse set of people, introspect. You yourself will realize a lot of differences in what you want to say and what you actually written, and that is when the multiple versions come into picture. And I'm pretty sure after a good amount of versions you will arrive at the perfect SOP that you'd want. So give it the time that it deserves.
There is a question in the chat which pertains to the people who are having many months of work ex. So the question says that if I have 35 months of work ex, would my interview revolve majorly around the questions which are related to my work ex? So the people who have good work ex can comment on this. Komal, I guess you can go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I can talk about it because I think it's from a medical background, non-engineer sort of thing. So sure. I'll just talk about it. So yeah, I mean, there will be a few questions regarding your work ex for sure. But don't discount the other questions. So drawing from my interview experience, I was first asked about why MBA. And essentially what happens is, since I've done a CA, why MBA after CA becomes like a blend. So those questions sort of come together. So for you as well, you will be asked about why MBA coming from a medical background. And then they will probably seep into your work ex. Also, you need to remember that most of the questions that come, they stem mostly from your answers. There is not a set of questions that maybe they cover a few ranges, but it's more conversational in nature. So to answer a specific question, you will have questions of work ex for sure, because you have a certain amount of work ex. And based on the work ex that you have done, why is it that you want to do an MBA now? That will be probably even a logical next counter question that even I come up with right now. So yeah, there will be questions on work ex and why MBA after work ex. You can expect those two for sure.
Also, adding on to that, try to know the in and out of your work experience. Whoever has good amount of work ex, greater than 24 months is good amount. 24 months is good amount of work experience. So try to know in and out of whatever you have done in your work experience. So be aware about what you've done, because I was personally asked situational based questions based on my work experience, and half of my interview revolved around my work experience. So the next part in the agenda is the letter of recommendation. So IIM Bangalore asked for 2 letter of recommendations from the people of your work ex or your academics. So these are very 2 important documents, and make sure that the people whom you are contacting for LOR are as diverse as possible. So in my case, I had contacted my professor from my academics background and my manager from my work experience. This is very important because they might be having different views. So my professor would be having a different view about me based on my academics, and my manager would be having different view about me based on my leadership skills, the team building skills, etc. So these would be building more points on the table for you to be reviewed by the panelist, and it would be working in your favor.
Right. On top of that, also make sure that you know the person knows you really well, because recommendations is not merely about getting the highest score possible that the recommender can give. If there is a legitimate strength that the person recommends you talks about, and you talk about the same thing in the interview, it reflects very positively about you. For example, in one of the LORs for me, I got it from a faculty in the humanities department, even though I'm a computer science engineer. And I was even asked in the interview about right? Which I justified by saying that she knows me as a human being better than the faculties who are in my department. So make sure that the person legitimately knows you and is not really about getting the highest scores possible on the LOR.
Now let's move on to the important question, how to prepare for interview. So how I prepared for interview is I prepared each and every paragraph, each and every line that was written in my SOP. It will be, as Bhargavi pointed out it rightly, that 80 to 90% of your interview will revolve around your SOP. So while preparing, make sure that you study your SOP very properly. And what I did is I framed stories out of each and every paragraph, each and every line, and I had a good logic to explain why I did that, what I did. So have a logic to what you do, and this should be known to people who are preparing for interview, that usually while answering, STAR approach is used: situation, task, action, and result. So frame your answers in this format, so that it will be easier for you to answer any question.
Yeah, and the most basic question in any management interview is tell me about yourself. You might have heard it at various forums, like tell me about yourself should be like this, like that. So basically, nothing new, but just to re-emphasize the point, it should be between 60 to 70 seconds, and it should be something which is very, very unique to you. You can go through the answers of the past students, but make sure you highlight the important points, the important events of life. Don't only highlight your profile, it will not fetch you brownie points, but end it with a point, end it with a line which can drive the next question that your interviewer might ask. So this will help you drive the interview, and then it will work on your favor. If others want to add anything, they can go ahead.
Also make sure that you have 2-3 versions of tell me about yourself ready, because some panelists might be a bit restless. They might ask you to end in 60 seconds, and some panelists would just like to watch you go on and on and on. So you should have, ideally you should have a tell me about yourself for around 90 seconds, but also be ready to end it at 60 seconds if you have to, or go on till 2 minutes if the situation commands you to.
So we have a question here, which is, can LOR of professionals who are not currently working in a present working firm be applicable? So LOR of any person who knows you well is applicable. They would not connect it to whether you're working in that particular firm currently or not. So just make sure that the person knows you and the person writes good things about you.
Yeah, like for example, I had actually given an LOR of a client. So I was working with KPMG and I was working closely with a client of KPMG, and I used to work a lot with that guy was at a senior post in a company. So I don't think this working thing matters. You can give, as Bhargavi said, you can give any person's LOR who is sort of, who knows you well. That should suffice.
Yeah, so moving on to the next question, why MBA? So this question is very, very particular to the people in their particular domains, and it would be very interesting to get the answers from all of us. So I guess, Rajesh, we can start from you.
Sure, I'll start. So fun fact, when my IIM Bangalore interview happened, it happened for like 24 minutes, and for 10 minutes I was answering this question only as to why MBA. So I mean, my answer was not that long, but the questions that stemmed out of that question were a lot. And at a point I was trying to defend myself as to why MBA. So essentially, this answer coming from a CA background with WorkX and also having cleared CFA level 3, it sort of assimilated as to why MBA after CA. So I had essentially divided this answer into 3 buckets. First is, what is it that I am gaining out of an MBA? When I worked, I was catering to a very niche aspect of taxation. My idea was to sort of broaden my vision and try to understand different things which CA didn't help me, like supply chain management, operations, data analysis. So that is something that I was gaining out of that. Secondly, consulting was a field that I was interested in. I used to speak to people from consulting before joining an MBA to understand what they would do day in, day out. So, I wanted a segue to my career, and MBA was the best option there. So that was the second reason. And thirdly, also a personal choice as to, because I'm a CA, usually CAs don't get a college life. So, just to add that human element to it, I also used to tell them that I wanted this experience from an MBA. So these were the 3 sort of points that I had, and I used to structure my answer around this. So it is essential for you to sort of take hold of these 3 points and then answer your question regarding why MBA.
Right then, so I'll go next. I was a computer science engineer and I worked at TCS as a web developer. So throughout my career, I've been largely involved with technology, and that's how I drove my YMBA. So I started off by talking about how I'm always in love with technology and I look forward to learning things there. But in addition to doing programming, in addition to writing code, I also loved solving problems. So that is something that my prior work ex did not give me much of an opportunity to do, because I worked in a very particular area where I got the requirements, I just translated them into code. So I drove my YMBA saying that I want to take care of the entire process wherein I can put forth solutions to problems that arise for customers, and I want to get into a product management role where I'll be allowed to do this and I'll also impact the lives of a lot of people. So technology was one thing that was persistent throughout my career, and that's how I drove my YMBA.
My work experience was also in Accenture. So my answer was similarly on lines of Aditya, that I was working on technology, but I was not able to view the broader angle of how my manager used to manage various teams. So in my team, I was the senior person, and I was the pseudo lead of my team. So it was very interesting to work with the clients, directly interact with them. So these kind of things interested me a lot. Along with that, I would also like to tell you that in Bangalore, I have seen all the interviews, and all the interviews of my friends, they happen around yourself. So they are interested in you. They will ask you everything about you. So make sure that you are able to portray about yourself properly. That's it.
So since we are on the topic of why MBA, so there's one question which usually comes up, which is since you're now trying to pursue MBA, do you think that your engineering or the thing that you have done as a part of your undergrad was a waste? So you should be ready with the answer of this. So basically, since I'm a computer science engineer, I had this answer that coding gave me a structured way of thinking. It gave me a way how to analyze data, and then I want to use these knowledge and these techniques in my management career. So make sure that you tell that your 4 years or 3 years of undergrad were very, very useful, and then you using those skills in your post MBA life as well.